Welcome back to Dream Harbor, traveler. Tonight, I would like to tell you a story called The Ferry Host of Lighthouse Island. Each evening, as the lake gathered the last silver of the day, a small wooden ferry drifted quietly between the mainland shore and a lonely lighthouse island. At its gentle helm sat a patient ferry host, while a white marsh heron waited beside him with folded wings, watching the water as though it had known every ripple for 100 peaceful years. I have always liked this story. It moves no faster than the water itself. So, come with me for a little while. The ferry never hurried anyone, and neither shall we. The island was not large. It rose from the middle of the lake like a smooth green stone, softened by moss, wild grasses, and old cedar trees that leaned gently toward the quiet shore. At its highest point stood the lighthouse, built from pale gray stone that carried the warmth of countless sunsets within its weathered walls. Its light was never bright enough to startle. It simply turned, slowly, patiently, again and again. The ferry host was named Rowan, though few visitors asked his name anymore. Most who crossed simply smiled, nodded, and stepped aboard with quiet gratitude. That was enough. The lake had a way of encouraging peaceful silence. Every morning Rowan untied the ferry from its weathered post just after dawn brushed pale gold across the eastern water. The ropes always slipped free with familiar ease. The boat always answered with the smallest wooden sigh. The heron, whom Rowan quietly called Cloud for the softness of its white feathers, would already be waiting near the bow. Sometimes Cloud stood upon one leg, sometimes both. Occasionally the bird dipped its beak into the cool lake as though tasting the morning itself. Neither of them seemed concerned about time. The first crossing belonged to the mist. Thin ribbons floated across the lake, weaving between reeds and floating lilies. From a distance, the ferry appeared to glide through clouds instead of water. The island emerged slowly, then disappeared again, then returned, as though it enjoyed being discovered over and over. The passengers were never many. An elderly woman carrying fresh herbs gathered from quiet hills. A basket maker bringing woven willow trays. A young painter hoping to spend another calm afternoon sketching the lighthouse from different angles. A child holding a smooth pebble found along the shore, determined to discover whether the island pebbles looked different from the mainland ones. Everyone came with simple intentions. No one arrived in haste. No one feared arriving late. The ferry accepted every journey with equal kindness. Cloud watched every passenger, never suspicious, only curious. If someone carried crumbs from breakfast, the bird might step a little closer. If someone spoke softly, Cloud tilted its head as though carefully listening. Children often whispered greetings. The heron acknowledged them with one graceful blink. Rowan believed that every lake carried its own language. Not words, not quite music, something between the two. The tiny waves spoke against wooden hulls. The reeds answered whenever the breeze wandered through them. Fish disturbed the surface with delicate circles. Dragonflies stitched invisible paths through warm afternoon light. Even silence had its own gentle voice. After years upon the lake, Rowan no longer tried to separate these sounds. Together they became the rhythm of his days. The lighthouse keeper lived alone upon the island, though alone never seemed quite the right word. She was named Elian, and every evening she climbed the winding stone stairs to tend the great lantern above. The light itself required little effort now. Long ago it had burned oil. Later it welcomed gentler inventions. Now it glowed with quiet steadiness, asking only for clean glass and careful attention. Elian polished each pane until the evening sky reflected clearly within it. She often said that the lantern shone brightest when it first remembered the sky. Rowan liked that thought. Whenever he arrived with supplies, the two shared tea outside the lighthouse door. They rarely discussed important things. Instead, they admired ordinary ones. How the reeds leaned farther west today. How turtles favored one sunlit log over another. How clouds seemed unusually round. How the wind carried the scent of cedar after light rain. Such conversations never truly ended. They simply paused until the next cup of tea. One afternoon, Rowan noticed Cloud watching a family of ducks crossing the lake. The ducklings traveled in a slightly crooked line. One drifted behind. Another hurried ahead. Their mother adjusted her pace without seeming concerned. Eventually, every duckling found its place again. Cloud remained perfectly still, then settled its feathers with quiet satisfaction. Rowan smiled. The lake, it seemed, always found room for every traveler. Seasons visited the island gently. They never arrived all at once. Instead, they announced themselves through little changes. The first bright blossoms beside the dock. The deeper fragrance of warm pine bark. The longer shadows drifting across calm water. The first cool evenings that invited thicker blankets. Golden leaves floating like tiny boats. Morning frost that sparkled before quietly disappearing beneath the sun. Each season stayed just long enough. Each departed without farewell. The ferry continued. Its crossings never counted the days. There was a small bell beside the mainland dock. Visitors rang it once whenever they wished to cross. Its sound never echoed loudly. Instead, it drifted across the water with surprising softness. Rowan always seemed to hear it, even when Cloud appeared asleep, even when the breeze whispered through reeds. The ferry would appear soon afterward, moving steadily toward whoever waited. No one wondered how Rowan heard every bell. The lake simply carried sounds where they needed to go. Sometimes there were no passengers at all. Those became Rowan's favorite crossings. Not because he disliked company. Quite the opposite. He appreciated both conversation and silence. An empty ferry simply allowed him to notice different things. The shape of reflected clouds. The tiny ripples left behind by insects. The changing color of underwater stones. The slow turning of the lighthouse beam across afternoon mist. Cloud seemed to enjoy those quiet crossings as well. The heron often walked from one end of the boat to the other with great seriousness, inspecting every plank as though ensuring everything remained exactly where it belonged. It always did. One evening, gentle rain arrived. Not a storm, only soft rain that barely disturbed the lake. Each drop formed a tiny circle before disappearing into larger circles already waiting. The whole lake became a tapestry of patient ripples. Passengers opened simple umbrellas. Others simply lifted their faces and smiled. The ferry crossed as always. Rain had no wish to interrupt peaceful routines. When Rowan reached the island, Elian had already placed 2 warm cups beside the lighthouse door. Steam rose into the cool air. Clouds stood beneath the cedar branches, perfectly content. They watched the rain together without saying much. Some moments preferred quiet company over conversation. Years passed in this gentle way. Or perhaps they simply flowed. On lakes, it becomes difficult to measure time by calendars. Better to measure it by returning birds, by flowering reeds, by familiar faces appearing once again at the dock. There was a little wooden bench near the island landing. Travelers often sat there before returning home. Some stayed only a minute. Others remained through an entire sunset. Nobody asked them to leave. The bench belonged to whoever needed stillness. Its wood had grown smooth beneath countless peaceful afternoons. One child visited often enough to become almost part of the island itself. Her name was Mira. She enjoyed counting turtles. Not because anyone asked her to. Simply because she wondered whether turtles preferred sunny mornings or quiet evenings. Each visit she recorded her observations in a tiny notebook. Eventually, she concluded that turtles appreciated both equally. Rowan considered this excellent wisdom. Cloud seemed to agree. The lighthouse held many windows. Each reflected the lake differently. One showed morning mist. Another caught the afternoon sparkle. One gathered sunsets into soft amber squares. The highest reflected stars before anyone else noticed them. Elian said every window remembered a different hour. Perhaps every place does. There came an autumn evening when the lake became perfectly still. Not a single breeze stirred its surface. The lighthouse reflection stretched from island to shore without breaking once. Rowan paused the ferry in the middle. Cloud remained motionless beside him. Neither wished to disturb that extraordinary mirror. Above them, clouds drifted. Below them, identical clouds drifted. For a little while it became impossible to say where the sky ended and the lake began. The passengers whispered without meaning to. Beauty sometimes encourages softer voices. One elderly traveler remarked that calm water resembles quiet thoughts. Rowan carried those words for many seasons afterward. The ferry itself had grown old. Its paint had faded. Its seats bore the gentle polish of many years. Small repairs appeared here and there. Fresh boards beside older ones. New rope beside weathered knots. Yet the ferry never lost its peaceful nature. Like many good things, it became more comforting with age. Cloud also grew older. The bird flew a little less. Preferred shorter walks. Spent longer hours simply watching the water. Nothing about this felt sad. Only complete. Some evenings Rowan found himself matching Cloud's stillness. Together they observed the lake without needing to explain what they saw. Understanding often arrives quietly. Visitors occasionally asked Rowan whether he ever wished to travel somewhere else. He always smiled before answering. The lake travels enough for both of us. People usually laughed gently. Then they looked across the water once more. Many seemed to understand. The lake never stayed exactly the same. Its colors shifted every hour. Its reflections welcomed endless skies. Its moods remained peaceful while always becoming something slightly new. Perhaps staying in one place allows us to notice journeys hidden within ordinary days. Winter eventually dressed the island in soft white. Snow gathered upon cedar branches. The lighthouse stood bright against quiet skies. The ferry continued crossing whenever the water remained open. When thin ice appeared near the shore, it shimmered like delicate glass before gently melting beneath warmer afternoons. Cloud left for a time each winter. The bird always returned. Rowan never worried. Some friendships know exactly how to find their way home. The first morning Cloud returned each year became one of Rowan's favorite celebrations. No speeches, no banners, only a familiar white bird gliding toward the dock with effortless grace. Rowan would nod. Cloud would blink. Everything important had already been said. Sometimes the island welcomed musicians carrying small instruments. They played softly beneath the lighthouse. Their melodies drifted over the water until they blended with distant birdsong. Even after the music ended, listeners imagined they could still hear traces of it among the reeds. Perhaps they could. Lakes remember many things. One spring morning, Rowan noticed tiny flowers blooming beside the island path where none had appeared before. No one claimed to have planted them. The blossoms simply arrived. Blue, small, almost shy. Visitors admired them carefully, stepping around them without needing signs or fences. Gentleness often protects itself. As years continued their patient circles, fewer travelers came seeking remarkable experiences. More arrived seeking quiet ones. They crossed the lake to sit, to breathe, to watch light move across stone, to hear distant water touching the shore, to remember that peaceful hours still existed. The ferry carried each hope without asking questions. Cloud remained nearby, sometimes asleep, sometimes awake, always present. Eventually, even Rowan noticed he spoke less. Not because words had become scarce, because silence had grown generous. The pauses between thoughts became comfortable places to rest. The lake seemed pleased with this. Near evening, the lighthouse lantern awakened once more. Its steady beam reached across calm water. Not searching, not warning, simply keeping company with the darkness. That seemed enough. Perhaps kindness often looks like that. A quiet light turning patiently through long evenings. Expecting nothing, offering everything gently. And so the days continued. Morning mist, gentle crossings, tea beside the lighthouse, the patient company of Cloud, reflections that changed with every passing hour. Nothing needed to become larger. Nothing wished to. The island had already become exactly what it hoped to be. A peaceful place surrounded by patient water. Now, traveler, I feel the story becoming quieter. The ferry is making one final crossing. Cloud stands near the bow with feathers tucked close. The lake carries only the softest ripples. The lighthouse turns. Slowly, steadily. Its light reaches the shore, then the water, then the trees, then quietly returns again. The dock waits without impatience. The ropes rest loosely upon worn wood. Somewhere reeds whisper together in voices too gentle to understand and too comforting to ignore. The evening air grows cooler. Stars begin appearing one by one. Each reflection settles beside another until the lake seems filled with peaceful lanterns. Rowan guides the ferry home. No one rushes ashore. No one needs to. Every crossing has already brought them where they belonged. The island remains behind, calm beneath its faithful light. Cloud folds one wing, then the other. The lighthouse continues its quiet turning. It will keep watch through the night, as it always has, as it always will. And now our own story drifts gently back toward Dream Harbor. The familiar harbor lights glow across quiet water. The tide moves softly against the welcoming shore. Travelers arrive each night, just as you have, carrying the weight of waking hours until they find a peaceful place to set it down. I remain here, as I always do, with another story waiting beyond tomorrow's gentle tide. Dream Harbor will remember this quiet evening, even if it slips softly from your thoughts before morning. The harbor lights will still be waiting. The water will still be calm. And whenever you return, you will find me here once again. Until then, dear traveler, may your breathing become as gentle as the lake. May your thoughts drift as quietly as the ferry beneath the turning lighthouse. May your dreams find peaceful shores. Good night.